Oh, hi, James.
Oh, hi, Jess. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm missing you beside me for this podcast. Do you know
Yeah,
why?
I'm missing you too.
Oh, it's because we're in lockdown. That's right. Melbourne is back to square one. Isn't that right, Walker?
Yep, I'll see you in 2022 for my 30th birthday, hopefully.
It'll probably be you get to celebrate your birthday, have a massive party, and then the week after.
Yeah,
Like, who would have thought, like, a week, like, before, I was just like, oh, no new cases, we'll be right. Then, boom, on Monday.
I know. It's almost like it was planned.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun. Um, yeah, are you working from home now?
No, I'm still going into the office, and
You're considered essential, are
I'm an
you?
essential worker. That's right. And it's funny because where I park my car, the sign says for essential workers only. I'm like, well, I fit the bill. Yes. So
Classic.
I have a letter that allows. So if I get stopped by the police people, I'll be like, here's my letter. Leave me be. Carry on your day.
Yeah,
But you should have
you're
seen it.
essential.
Yeah, like the day before. I think there were oh, I can't even remember. There were groups of like police people in the city. Like because
Yeah,
they said it was 6 p.m. onwards, yeah?
yeah.
They were everywhere and I was just driving past and I was like, "Whoa, things can change dramatically and like today it's just like a dead zone in the city."
Did you see all the freedom protesters?
No, I did. I've got no idea. Tell us more.
Yeah, so there was a lot of people had gathered at Flinders Street Station, but they also had a protest march about a week, no, yeah, the weekend before your birthday, so two
Hmm.
weekends ago, in the city, and they were saying that the government's going to put us into another lockdown. It's just a matter of time. um, very much hyped up about it. I'm like, oh, as if the government's going to put us into another lockdown. So this was 2 weeks before we went into a lockdown. They were hyping on about it. And guess
You
what?
know why? People are saying that the state of emergency was running out as well, isn't it? That's like a
Yes.
conspiracy.
And they're like, how funny that it finishes on the day of the last, because they couldn't get through the bill last time to extend the powers.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, this one's from South Australia's hotel quarantine program. Isn't that perfect for the Victorian government? Yeah, it's just a lot of things that are a bit iffy about this one.
Yeah, but here we are.
Mm.
So we're stuck in lockdown until what, next Thursday?
Yeah, until next Thursday.
So hopefully it stops there. But it was interesting. I was talking to my customers today and they were just like, oh, you poor sucker. Oh, you should come to Queensland. There's no problems here.
Yeah.
And just like that. But what are you going to do during this lockdown, James?
I'm just working. I'm essential as well.
Are you working from home?
No, in the office every day.
Nice. Do you have a
Yeah.
letter? Because I do.
What?
Do you have a letter?
No.
Oh, all right. I'll let you touch my letter.
We don't need a letter. We are the government.
That's true. Well, James, you have a lot to
Well,
answer for, right?
yeah.
Aw.
What else was I gonna say?
This is
Yeah,
recorded
let's
on YouTube.
introduce what we're gonna be talking about today.
Yes.
You can go first, I reckon. You go first, or do you want me to go first?
Let's see. Let's give some context to this. So
Yeah.
last week, me and James were just like, you know what? Let's just have fun. And you started touching on this topic that you're going to talk about.
Yeah.
That there was a
we've already
lady.
semi-talked about it, but I'm going to go in more into depth.
Do you want to share what your title is, and then I'll share mine, and then we'll just delve right into it?
Yeah, sure. So my title is about Anne Hodges, the woman who was struck by a meteorite.
Ooh. It's funny because I never heard of that before until you said it last week. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's quite amazing.
And that's what she goes down in history for, sitting on a couch and getting hit, yeah?
Yeah,
but we won't
it was
reveal
on the
anymore.
Day of Thanksgiving on November the 30th. So it was similar to the type of weather that we're experiencing at the moment. like cold. So she had a quilt cover on, cozied up on the couch. A few days after Thanksgiving, you ate too much, that type of feeling.
Mm.
Yeah, so she was on the couch. It blasts in through her roof. She's in Sky Pega. I think that's how you pronounce it.
I remember
in
trying
Alabama.
to pronounce this, yeah.
And yeah, she was just in her couch, and then it hit the radio, and then reflected off the radio and hit her in the left side of her body. So there's actually pictures of obviously the rock, the meteorite that hit her. She's the only person in history who has survived. This happened in 54. Sorry, 54. Correction corner. 1954, and she basically, has this big bruise in the picture. She's just your Alabama girl, like, in her late 30s. She would have been 36, I'm pretty sure, when she got hit. She instantly becomes, obviously, the celebrity. Like, she got hit by a bloody rock, a meteorite, out of the sky. What are the chances? They said she had more chance of being in a hurricane, getting struck by lightning with a hurricane and something else happening. I can't remember what was the third, natural event. That's how much she had more likely chances in life of being in a hurricane, getting struck by lightning, and something else. I can't remember the third thing. The third thing was, similar to a hurricane or tornado. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And, even the pictures,
what
know. The hell?
Yeah, anyway, yeah, that's what they were saying, in terms of, probability. And I was just definitely this thing happened for a reason. So she's the only person to have survived. There's also other cases. There was a bus driver in Russia who got hit by a meteorite and died. There's heaps of other people who have been hit by meteorites and have died.
What a way to go, isn't it? Imagine that eulogy.
I know, and she survives this one.
I wonder if she was one of those people that wanted to talk about it, or was just nah, that happened ages ago. Get over it.
Do you want to hear something else that happened that was pretty, I guess I felt it was pretty rude? Mm. So they just rented this house in this little town. It's spelled S01. Lacauragur, I'm pretty sure.
Mm.
Yeah. The American pronounced it so well, and I've forgotten how he said it. 1 second. Let me try and put on my best American accent.
Yeah, you have.
And get it right.
Tell the people.
So I'm pretty sure. 1 second.
Do 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 do.
Skylacusia. I think that's how he said it.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just this little town, just on the thing, and bang through the ceiling, and it struck her on her left side of the body. Apparently, after hitting the radio, then hits her. It was about 3.5 kilos.
Oh my gosh! Is it in some museum now?
Yes, they actually donated it to the Museum of Natural History.
Oh my goodness!
1956.
I've been there, James.
What I was getting back to before, I forgot and kept on trying to pronounce the thing wrong. I probably pronounced that wrong. So if you know the town and
James,
you're listening to us, can you please just write in and tell me how I pronounce it?
I've been there. I've seen this.
Can, pronounce it properly.
Oh my goodness, this is just ringing bells. I've been to the Natural History, that was 2 years ago. I've seen this rock.
Where?
In the Natural History Museum.
In America?
Yes.
Bullshit.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I didn't click before. Sorry about my high-pitched voice.
How pretty is it? There's actually a picture of it, and it's made out of, like, mostly, they were saying, what were the two elements?
Oh
the
my
two
goodness.
elements were, like, it's really shiny and pretty.
Yes, I do
It's
remember
got, like,
this.
specks through it. I was just like, ooh, it's really pretty. I think it was copper and iron were the main elements found in the rock.
I want to know. Like, I'm going to go through my pictures after this and track this down because I would have taken a picture. This would have been like 10 years ago, not 2 years ago. I was in London 2 years ago. It would have been 10 in America.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was this Russian guy who got hit by one, and then there was another person who got hit by one and died. And then the only other person was in 2009, a 14-year-old German boy called Gerrit Blank was hit in the hand by a pea-sized meteorite. I'm saying meteoroid. It's meteorite.
No, it's all good. And did he live or?
He just had a scar, left a scar, and gave him a fright, obviously.
I wouldn't even know. Interesting, isn't it?
It's just a pea-sized one. So there's actually been 2 people now who've survived.
See, why don't they have this on the news, you know?
I don't know. But the saddest thing is this is where the story takes a turn, guys. So the landlord tries to sue them because they're renting the house because she wants the rock. Because it's her property.
Oh.
But she's like, but then the judge is like, but it didn't hit you. It hit her. Like, no.
That's so dumb.
I think the judge was like, you can have $500 and that's it. Like, bye. Case dismissed. Like, the rock belongs to them. And then, obviously, everyone came to the house because everyone was like, oh, my God, you know, like, blah, blah, blah. This is the lady who got hit by, she became, like, famous overnight. Just an ordinary lady, and then obviously, you know, she's known for the large dark bruise on the left side of her body and being hit by a 3.8 kilogram meteorite.
That's insane. I wonder how she took it, like, all that attention. Like, does it say, like, anything what happened later?
It actually gets a little bit sad. She ends up having a divorce from her husband. So she was 31 at the time. I said 36. She was 31 at the time. And, she ends up breaking up with her husband, going through a divorce, and her husband says she was never the same after it.
The divorce or the meteorite?
No, the meteorite. Because I think it was the sudden
shock,
fame, you know, like living a small life, you know, just being a house, like, you know, living in your house with your husband, and then all of a sudden, you know, people are coming outside your home, taking pictures, being like, you're that girl.
That's
you're
insane.
That woman, you know?
You just never know with life. It just goes to show.
Yeah. It's just like, it was a holiday season too, because, like, you know, Thanksgiving, and she was just on the couch, and then, she gets hit. But it bounced off the radio and hit her. If it hadn't bounced off the radio, if it hadn't been directly, she would have died. If that makes sense? It was like a repercussion of that.
Wow.
Ricocheted off that, yeah.
I don't know what to say. It's just, what in the world?
Yeah.
No, good story, James. Good gracious.
Yeah, so also about it, you've obviously seen it in person.
You know what?
This is like the thing though, like,
that's weird, isn't it?
Her husband, like, basically, there was a lot of skeptics who said, no, she wasn't hit by a meteorite, she's made this up, she just wants attention, you know, all that kind of stuff. You know, people dismiss the story, don't want to believe it. It's a conspiracy, you know. What does she want? She wants money, she wants attention. And then the biggest thing about it is that she said that she, like, could never sleep after it.
You don't know. Yeah.
It's like the trauma of it. She's had that serious dark, like, mark on her body ever since. I think she had, like, a form of like post-traumatic stress disorder from it.
Yeah, because it's kind of like, oh my God, I survived.
Fell into the breakdown of her marriage, and her husband said she was never the same after it.
That's too much to handle, you know.
Yeah. And then also I think people just say that, you know, how lucky you are and all this kind of stuff. It's like, am I lucky?
Yeah, it's perception, isn't it? You don't know until you go through it.
Yeah. And then what ended up happening was some people said that, no, it wasn't a meteorite. They thought it was just debris from a plane crash. And some, because at the time, you know, obviously the whole Russia thing, the Soviet Union and the US was a big thing at 50s, 54. So they were trying to pin it on Russia and a rock from a debris.
Oh, it's so interesting. It's something so simple and it just blows out of proportion, isn't it? No wonder, like, she couldn't handle it. It was all the conspiracy and this, that, and everything. Like, people's opinions just coming into it.
Yeah, she ends up dying of kidney failure.
Okay.
And quite young, 56.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and that's the story of Anne Hodges.
And this didn't occur to me that I may have seen this before.
Yeah, Skylar Cuja. Skylar Cuja. Skylar Cuja, that's how you pronounce it.
Skylar Cuja.
Yeah. Yeah, Skylar Cuja. Cool.
Well, thanks for sharing. That was unbelievable. It's kind of like even getting struck by lightning and living, yeah?
Yeah. I just find it fascinating.
Yeah.
I wish it kind of went different for her, though.
If it went the other way and she becomes like, I don't know, an advocate for NASA or something. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And my topic was, I've always been fascinated with this ever since I was little. It's kind of like Titanic, kind of like all of those like events in time. But I was always fascinated with Abraham Lincoln's assassination at the theater.
Yeah.
So basically, people don't know, Abraham Lincoln was an American lawyer and politician. I'm trying to do my American accent. I think I'm failing, yeah.
You're doing well.
American lawyer and politician who served as the 16th President of the United States from 1861, a bloody long time ago, until his assassination in 1865. And basically his impact in history, in the American history. Lincoln led the nation through the American Civil War, the country's greatest moral, cultural, constitutional, and political crisis. He succeeded in preserving the Union, abolishing slavery, and bolstering the federal government and modernizing the U.S. economy to this day. So, major figure. I'll be shocked if you haven't heard of him. Tall guy. Amazing movie. Guy. Amazing movie, Lincoln.
Yeah.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah. What's his name?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yes, Daniel Day-Lewis. That escaped me for a minute. Yep. And what's the girl who plays his wife?
Sally Field.
Yeah, Sally Fields. Yeah.
How she was like losing it because of the death of their son previously, and then when this happened, that really set her off, and she ended up dying in a mental institution. I think that's her story. Because you just like keep like after watching the movie, because you can see that she's losing it, sadly. Then you do your little research. I always do that afterwards. I'm like, what happened? Yeah. So he passed away when he was 56 years old. And it was quite, what I found, like, I did not know this before. I always read up on it, but I didn't know in depth.
It was quite unremarkable.
Who?
Lincoln.
What do you mean, James?
Like, it wasn't until he hit his 40s that he really becomes someone.
And that's a huge, and he fell into it too. It was just, he's a good leader.
What's quite fascinating about him is, like you said, he like falls into it and then he gets like really good.
Someone without an education.
Life, you know what I mean?
Yeah. This is someone without a good education. He came from poverty and somehow.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Einstein sort of a thing where he goes in the basement or something or in the attic and does all these equations and you're just like, what in the world?
Yeah.
You know? But yes, his I found it particularly interesting, like the events of the day where he got assassinated. How there was actually a number of people that were like, "Don't go to the theater," and he was basically like, "No, I need to go for my wife." Was one excuse, and then another one was because they already posted it in the papers that he would be there. So he was like, he didn't want to go. And I'll get to that in a second. I'm just trying to find my notes. I had it before. I wanted to introduce him.
Yeah.
So basically, he was assassinated by a guy called John Wilkes Booth. He was a famous, well-known actor at the time, right? And when his family owned the theater that the Lincolns went to. And basically, Lincoln was kicking along promoting people to vote for blacks at the time. And Booth hatched a plot to assassinate the president after that. And basically, Booth learned of the Lincolns' intent to attend plays with a company called General Grant at the time. And that's where he devised his plan to assassinate this guy. And because he was a well-known actor, he could move freely, right? Yeah. And basically, I was reading up on it, like people saw him walking. So basically, you got the presidential booth and you had this other door. So you got the door to the presidential booth, and then outside that was another door, and then you get the lobby, like, the front area of the theater. And basically, they saw, like, witnesses saw him just, like, weirdly walking slowly towards the door. And we're just like, well, what's wrong with this guy? He's a famous actor. What's he doing? So people found that weird. And even before that, like, Lincoln's footman told him not to go for some reason. It doesn't actually state why. And he was just like, no, I need to go. And he said it was because of my wife and because of the papers, I need to go. And actually his last words were something, it's mentioned in the movie, his last words. What did he say? I would love to stay, but I have to go. Something along those lines. And basically, even before that, they say, rumor has it, hasn't been proven or written anywhere. It was something that I think his footman had said, was that Lincoln had a dream 2 weeks before that, and it was inside the White House. There was a coffin, and he went over there in the dream and had a look, and it was him, and people were in mourning. And I always found that I think that's what set me off with this whole interested in this assassination story. I'm just like, ooh. But and then
dream of him having a dream about himself dying.
Yeah, very cryptic. And he looked into the coffin and it was him, and people were mourning him, and it had like the flag draped over it. So that was the first clue if you want to be superstitious about these things. And then it was the footman, and then the footman tried to give him the gloves and he pushed it away, and then he's like, no, you have to take your gloves, because it was like a formal, that's what they did back in the day. And then anyways, forward to the event, he made it into the first door, and he gave his like card. So you had to sign a card before you went in anywhere. And so he gave it to the footman at the door. And strangely enough, at the time, his security guards, or whatever the terms were called back in the day, were all at the pub. And before that, and they were just like, oh, we don't need to go. Like, they only had one person guarding the president, like in this theater. And that's where John Wilkes Booth was having a drink before he, did his great moment in his head anyway. And then fast forward again to the door. Anyways, he makes it in, and then he goes inside the booth. And, oh yeah, there was this other couple and another couple that declined to actually be in the presidential booth. This was before the theater and all of that. So it was a lot of weird coincidences, very superstitious if you want to take it that way. And then one couple decided to go with the president and the president's wife. And then so basically at 10:15, John Wilkes Booth waited for this because he was well known in the theater, like I said. He knew the play that they were all watching, and he was waiting for a certain line, and he was waiting for the room to erupt in laughter. And when the line was said, Lincoln was laughing his head off like everyone else, and Booth entered the back of Lincoln's theater box, crept up behind him, and fired at the back of Lincoln's head, mortally wounding him. Lincoln's guest, Henry Rathbone, so of the couple that decided to go with them, momentarily grappled with Booth, but Booth stabbed him, so basically knocked the gun out of his hand, and then Booth pulled out a knife and stabbed him. And all this time, like, the presidential booth, I think people were seeing below, but they thought it was part of the play because they knew that they recognized that it was this John Wilkes Booth person. And then grappled for a moment, stabbed him in the arm. He survived, this Rathbone guy. And then meanwhile, Lincoln was apparently slumped over the edge of the balcony, like presidential booth. The story goes like he went to then jump over the presidential booth, and then there was like a flag was draped underneath it to say that this is where the president is sitting. His foot got like caught up, and he was like hanging there for a second, and then he jumped down on the stage and he yelled something with the knife in his hand. But people, they're saying to this day, they're not quite sure as to what he was yelling, whether it was like free the South, because he wasn't happy with Lincoln's, take on things at the time. And people at the time still didn't click in their heads that they thought it was the play, and they're just like clapping and laughing. And then someone got up and was like, no, the president has been shot. And apparently from that moment on, it was pandemonium. People didn't know what to do. His wife, Mary, had completely lost it at that time. It's kind of like, and then I remember, like what I said last week, there was an interview. It's called Pick a Line or something. In the 50s, they used to do this game show where they used to have famous people come on. And those famous people, one of them was just this really, really old man. He would have been in his 90s. And he was describing an event, and then they guessed, and they were like, were you at this event? And he's like, yes. And they pulled their blindfold away because you ask questions, and if you get it right, then you get to pull the blindfold, you win. And then he recounts like the event when he was like 5 years old, and he went with his aunt. And he was flat out like, we all thought it was part of the play because we recognized this actor. And then when we realized that the president, then because the blood was like dripping down the like presidential booth, you can see apparently, then people just ran for it. And then they took, after two doctors attended to Lincoln, Lincoln was taken across the street to Peterson House, apparently, where he remained in a coma for 8 hours. And then Lincoln died at 7:22 a.m. on April the 15th. And then some person, I think it would have been one of his guards, probably I'm wrong, but saluted and said, now he belongs to the ages. And Lincoln's body was placed in a flag-wrapped coffin, which was loaded into a hearse and escorted to the White House by Union soldiers. It's very interesting. You just never know, isn't it? Could be the greatest person. And this is interesting, like even JFK, even all of them, they don't realize like the significance of and I don't know why like his footmen or everyone was at the pub and no one was around him at the time. Maybe there was no threat at the time. You just never know.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting. I find it interesting how the dream occurred, and that's exactly the way that it went. And he was stalling, like he didn't want to go, and he's like, oh no, my wife's waiting in like the horse and carriage. I have to go. Where's my gloves? And then he left the gloves, went back. Like it's very weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, now he belongs to the ages.
Yeah.
But it's very sad, like the entire situation, like especially for his wife. She had to go, and their son passed away, and then she had to deal with that. And apparently I think the eldest one was the only one that survived. There was another one that died in the war. I may be wrong. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here from what I read in the past. But yeah, thoughts, James? What do you think?
I'm just looking up online, and like the gun's really fancy, isn't it?
It's got that little clip at the top, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you can see the chair, like they've preserved that chair. Apparently to sit in that theater, they took a furniture from like the White House, their private collection or something like that, to go sit there. And they've preserved that chair, and to this day you can see, like if you Google it, the stained material of the blood is still there on the chair, and it's in a museum.
Oh, wow.
So they've captured it, even the gun, like And eventually what happened to John Wilkes Booth is that they tracked him down a week later. He was hiding in like a farmyard or something. And then he was sentenced to death. Yeah. I think that's what happened to him. But it took a while to actually catch him. He died, so basically there was a standoff. Oh, yes. 12 days later, at a farm in rural northern Virginia, he was tracked down, sheltered in a barn. Booth's companion, David Harold, surrendered, but Booth maintained a standoff. After the authorities set the barn ablaze, Union soldiers fatally shot him in the neck, paralyzed, and he died a few hours later. Of the 8 conspirators later convicted, 4 were soon hanged. Oh, okay. So they fatally shot him and there were other people involved that were hanged.
Yeah.
And he died at 26. Insane, isn't it? John Wilkes Booth. Prominent 26. Actor. Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know what's going on in someone's head. Like, it just goes to show.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. It's saying here that he made his mother a lot of promises about the war and something triggered him off, and then that was it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just can't imagine, like, can you imagine seeing the president just slumped over and just people running and not knowing what to do?
Yeah.
The headlines. Can't imagine. But yeah, that's my story. Amazing movie. Haven't seen it. Please do see it.
Yeah.
And
wow. That's like, I know, it's a really good story, isn't it?
Yeah, just the whole lead up to it and then the actual event, how he was just he was happy when he passed and it was quick, it seemed. I mean, he went into a coma and then died, but...
Yeah. Well, apparently his features were calm and his breathing slowed and steadied and his eyes became swollen, the right side of his face disfigured. Mary wasn't there when he died at 7:22 a.m. on April the 15th.
He must have made peace in the moment. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? Insane.
Wow.
But he loved the theatre, would seem.
Yeah.
Like,
it's so dramatic, really, in a theatre.
Even the people that he invited, like, to share the booth with him turned him down. Like, there were 2 couples and then this final couple, and that's the guy that actually got up and fought Booth.
Yeah.
Like, it's very interesting. But there you go. We're 32 minutes. We did it, James.
Wow. And I really liked this episode. It was cool.
You can just listen and listen, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, good. You have a drink, James. You haven't had a drink. I feel sorry for you.
Thanks. I'm going to.
Good. And enjoy your week.
You too.
Thank you.
And we'll catch up next week for our 53rd? How many episodes? 53rd.
That's next Sunday will be 1 year.
Is it?
Yeah. I thought it was this week and then I looked it up. I'm like, no, next Sunday.
That's next week. Okay. Sweet. Look at us go.
I know, killing it.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks everyone for listening. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment and let us know your thoughts. And we'll let you know what our next topic is soon.
Bye.
Bye.